Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rethinking Reality, episode 10. No, 9. This is a podcast where I talk about the universe and things that might make you scratch your head. Today, we're going to be looking at The Anatomy of Story by John Truby. I know you probably can't read that at all, but I have the book here. Sorry about the lighting. It's super crappy because it's 10:12 p.m. right now. I literally forgot that I'm supposed to record this today because I finished this book today. I read the last roughly 90 pages today, and so got to film this episode on the same day because I've actually already started another book, which technically I didn't start another book. I continued reading, and I reread some of Chase Hughes' book called, not 6-Minute X-Ray, but The Ellipsis Manual. That's what I'm currently reading. Let me adjust this mic just a little bit. Sorry. This is going to be weird because lighting's different, and how do I adjust this? Oh, this way. Oh, just like that. That's good. Right, now, let's get into the book. Okay, so this is totally unscripted. This is probably going to be my worst podcast episode of all. Who knows, though? Maybe it'll be the most interesting. Because I don't have any points that I've written down. I'm literally just going to... I don't know why I said literally, like a British boy. I'm sorry, that's not, okay. I'm just being funny, okay? Trying to be. I'm just gonna read from what I can remember. Can you see the book? Anyway, I borrowed this from the library. If you can see that, yeah. So, anyway, I don't have to return tomorrow, but I'm going to return it tomorrow. Still could borrow it for like another month. But anyway, I'm wasting time. What the heck am I doing? All right, so I'm just going to review this book, I guess. What did I think about this book? I liked it overall. It was quite interesting. I didn't really take my time with it because, I mean, it wasn't so interesting that like, I was just like, man, I just want to like, I just love this book. I want to read it all the time. But let's see, I read it in total in about 4 days. Now, I think 4 days because, let's see, I read a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I read the first 40 pages in a day or maybe 2 days. And then, let's see, I see, because I finished Crime and Punishment on the 9th, and I think I started or resumed this book that same day. So yeah, so it took me 4 or 5 days, possibly 6 days, but I think 4 or 5 days in total to read this book. And I definitely learned several things about stories. I'll say that. I'm definitely not a master storyteller after reading it because I haven't actually written any stories or applied any of the techniques that this book talks about. But I guess I'll just talk about what's contained within the book. So, yeah, it talks about 22 steps that you need to follow, or that should be followed if you want to become a master at storytelling. But it also talks about how there are 7 crucial elements to a story. So, basically, any story you write, I think even if it's a short story, should have at least 7 steps. Let's see if which I can recall. Weakness and desire. Plot, that's one of them, right? I'm trying to remember this. No, weakness and need, and then desire, plot, characters. No, I don't even know, dude. I can't think right now. It's kind of late at night, but anyway. Yeah, I'll just talk about some things about the book, I guess, without going into too much specific detail, or maybe I will. But it gives a lot of examples of stories, which is good, right? I mean, it lists a lot of classic stories, movies as well as novels, many of which I've never read or seen or even heard of, but a lot of them I have heard of but haven't seen, or a few of them I have seen. Like, it talks about It's a Wonderful Life, A Christmas Carol. Yeah, it uses those as examples a few times. Those were cool to read, you know, learning about, especially It's a Wonderful Life, because I like that movie, and it discussed how that film was made and the different scenes and how the writers used different techniques. Like, let's see, what did it talk about? Like, I guess like storytell, like having a storyteller, for example, right? Because at the beginning of It's a Wonderful Life, there's these like two angels, I guess, or they're stars basically, who are also angels who tell Clarence the story of George Bailey. And yeah, it's interesting to walk through the different techniques the writers used in that story, like how they they have these like the story shows two different potential worlds, right? Which is well the current world with George Bailey in it, and Bedford Falls, what it's like, what the town is like, and then Clarence shows George what the town would look like, and all the people around him, what they would be like, the people he knows if he had never been born. And so it's interesting. It's an interesting technique, quite powerful. But anyway, what else about this book? Like, I just want to think about it. I mean, what I learned from this book is that like stories are very deep, and one thing that this book said at the beginning that caught my attention was stories don't. I'm not going to quote it perfectly, but stories don't show us what reality is. They show us what reality could be, right? They show us potential of how we could be as humans, and if we emulated certain modes of being, what our lives could be like, and what society could be like, and what on a bigger scale, our nation or even the world could be like, I guess. And so stories are extraordinarily powerful because they allow people to connect. And well, let's see, I'm trying to remember what the book said exactly, but stories are very powerful because they allow us to learn things, right? They allow us to see whether or not a particular mode of being plays out. You know what I'm saying? Because they allow the writers to use their imagination to see what works, and then the viewer, I don't even know if what I'm saying is making sense, but then the viewer is able to almost like vicariously live through the hero usually, and then to figure out whether or not a particular lifestyle or way of living in the world is effective or is something that they should emulate, I guess, if that makes sense. So anyway, what else does this book talk about? It talks about a lot of movies like Casablanca, never heard of, but apparently it's really good, and The Godfather, apparently are super good stories. Never read or watched any of them. I don't know if they're books and movies on those stories. I don't know. Or just movies or just books. But anyway, I think there's at least a movie for The Godfather. But anyway, I mean, if they're really good stories, there's probably both books and movies on them. But anyway, it talks about the 3-act structure and how you shouldn't emulate that, or you shouldn't limit yourself to just the 3-act structure. I forget why, but I think it's because like it just like it makes your plot. It makes your story, I think, predictable. I think that's what the book said. Like, it makes your story predictable, and it like hinders your ability to develop the plot. I don't even know. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, the story talks about a lot of different elements of story. Obviously, it's all about story, right? I'm trying to think of the different terms. Obviously, hero, fake ally opponent, and fake opponent ally, which are fake ally opponent. No, there's a type of character who at first appears to be an opponent or an ally of the opponent, but actually, oftentimes they end up being the ally of the hero. There's also a type of character that pretends to be the ally of the hero, but is secretly the ally of the opponent, or can be, or is just not the ally of the hero. But anyway, can't remember exactly, but yeah, it talks about like moral arguments. That's another term. That's a big thing in storytelling. Is as a writer, you need to make a moral argument as to let's see. A moral argument is essentially a statement that the it's an idea, I guess, that the writer's trying to get across to the audience. And yeah, let's see. The book talks about not being obvious, like the difference between bad writing and good writing and great writing. So for example, having a hero state his desire, what he wants to achieve, which is kind of that the hero's desire, as far as I understand, kind of sets up the whole story. But having the hero just outright state what he wants is a bad way to go about revealing that to your audience. What else? I mean, there's tons within this book. Like, I mean, I do think it's a very good book. Like, if I wanted to become a master at storytelling, I would probably read this book over and over. But yeah, let's see. It talks about, like, towards the end, because I know the primary. I hit a bone there. Dang. What is that? Primacy or primary? No, it's not primary. The primacy and recency effect is at play, of course, as I read this book, because I remember most of the beginning, or some of the beginning, and most of the end of what I read, right? But let's see. So towards the end, it talks about how to create a story that sort of lives on forever and kind of keeps retelling itself. And it's pretty interesting, right? Because it's like, I guess that's one of the things that separates an incredible story from just a good story, right? Is that if you make a movie or a book that's really, really good, it's many things. One, it's original, and that's one thing it talks about. There's one line in the book that said, it's kind of a juxtaposition that writers have to face, because they have to make something that's organic and original, but also that, that uses elements that are universally understood, right? Or like, so the audience like recognizes, okay, this is this element, this is, if that makes sense. Anyway, but one way to make a story sort of be able to retell itself is by having like a huge, I guess, plot twist at the end, or so something like this. It's like you have a story about I'm trying to think. I forget, one example it gave was like an actual story that exists, which was where the story has a storyteller, and then at the end the audience finds out that the storyteller has been dead the whole time, or something like that. Anyway, but there's different ways that you can create a sort of never-ending story effect, to where the audience just feel, after they finish watching the movie or whatever, they feel like they have to go back and experience the whole story again, because now they know so much more information, and the things that happen in the story are going to make more sense or have a different effect on the audience now that they know more information about the characters or the symbols or whatever, right? So anyway, that's pretty cool, right? Because typically we think of a story, it's like once you tell a story, it's like, oh, okay, then that's it, right? The audience has learned something from the story, and then that's the end of that. But really, stories can be good stories, or great stories can be retold over and over, and to the same person, and every time the person who's listening to it or watching it or receiving or participating in the story, hopefully, right, experiencing it, will learn something new every time. So anyway, so that's that. Now, let's see. I think I've been talking about 25 minutes. I don't even know, but 15 minutes. Never mind. literally because there's a timer right there. Yeah, this book was good. I would rate it. I don't even know. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to understand like certain parts of it, but I don't know. Maybe I read too quickly in some parts. I probably did, but yeah, there's a lot of different terms. I mean, the story world. What else is there? Yeah, Revelations. I just saw that. Revelations is a big one. It emphasizes that, and how like with each revelation in the story, you want some like new super important information to be revealed, and that with each revelation, ideally, typically, you want it to be bigger than the last revelation. And also, as the story progresses, you want more. So you want to have more and more revelations that are bigger and bigger, until eventually the audience is just like on this roller coaster. It's like the roller coaster starts out like 5 miles an hour, then goes to 10, then goes to 20, then goes to 30, then goes to 50, and then all of a sudden, and then also the roller coaster goes from like smooth level to like some minor uphills and downhills. And then 50 miles an hour is like super high, super sharp curves and turns, and at the end of or towards the end of the story, the audience is on this roller coaster that they're just here for the ride, and they're having the time of their life, right? And so that's kind of how a story should be told. At least that's what I got from John Truby. One of the things I got from this book. So, of course, I guess there are exceptions, but yeah. I mean, he covers a bunch of different genres. I guess pretty much all the genres, like myth, comedy, horror. I feel like he didn't talk much about horror, but maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I'm kind of tired right now, but usually I'm in bed by this time. But I was like, I gotta make this video. I'm not gonna let my lazy brain get away with being lazy. Anyway, what else about this book? I think I'd give it. Let's see. I'd give it an 8.5. We'll just say that. Yeah, we'll say an 8.5 out of 10. What else did it talk about? Yeah, moral argument, it emphasized a lot, and subplot, it also talked about. I think, yeah, it talked about how television shows, especially, need to have multiple subplots because there are many episodes, and so the audience will sort of remember various subplots within a TV show, and they'll slowly build and develop over time as the show goes on, and hopefully the show goes on for multiple seasons. But I need to move this mic higher. Yeah. What else was in this book? Talked about detective stories. Those have a lot of revelations typically. And let's see, what did it talk about in terms of? It talked about how important the contrast between the hero and the opponent is. It talked about you shouldn't make your hero too predictable. Not predictable. What was I gonna say? You should make him relatable, but not too relatable. That's what I meant to say. Relatable. And you should clearly define your hero's desire and yeah. And also you shouldn't make the hero's opponent too different from the hero. You should make them actually pretty similar, but the differences are what matter, right? And yeah, it also talks about, like, for example, the battle between the hero and the opponent is very important in the story, and how really it shouldn't be much a physical battle. It should be more of a battle of values and of morals, right? As opposed to a physical battle, or even a battle of like intellect, I guess. But anyway, yeah. What else did it talk about? Yeah, it talked about making sure your opponent has a good argument for why he is the way he is, right? You don't want make your opponent just like evil. You want to make him, well, maybe sometimes you do, but you typically want to make your opponent logical. At least you want to convey to the audience clearly why the villain is the way he is, right? And you want to give him good reasons. But ultimately, like, you want his reasoning to be good, but still flawed in some way, right? And that's why, like, he's wrong, because his reasoning is flawed in some manner. Anyway, and yeah, I think that's about it, honestly. I'm going to end this one short, I think. The Anatomy of Story by John Truby. I mean, I only talked about 1/50th of this book. Not even that, really. But yeah, it was a good book. And yeah, it mentions Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment a couple times. It talked about it briefly, which was cool, because I just read that book, so that was interesting. And yeah, what else is there to say about this book? It's about 420 pages long, roughly. And I'd say it's quite an extensive list of the most important techniques used in storytelling. Also, it's kind of funny. At one point, the book mentions that you shouldn't get stuck. You shouldn't mess around too much with the techniques as far as the order of each element of the story. But then also said you also shouldn't mess with it too much. Like, no, what I said that in the wrong. You get what I'm trying to say? I'm tired, man. You shouldn't let it limit you, but you also shouldn't move them around too much, if that makes sense. So it's like you shouldn't be too creative with the techniques in here. You should try to use them as they're traditionally used, but you also shouldn't get stuck to them, right? So anyway, but that's about all I have to say, dude. I'm tired as heck. Good book, and I would recommend it. I think it's about $14 on Amazon, $15, but I got it for free at my library, so thankfully at the college I go to. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. Was it freaking terrible? If so, what should I do to make these videos better? Because I need feedback. Yo, I need to go viral, please. Need to go viral. No, I'm just kidding. But hey, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. I'd give you a hug if I could, man. But you're amazing. And stay tuned for the Ellipsis Manual review. I'll do probably a podcast on that and also an actual video reviewing that, like I did for 6 Minute X-Ray, which ended up getting around 300 views after like a month of it being uploaded. But yeah, I got a few comments, which is cool. But yeah, and then I'm also probably going to, dude, I'm just like, I've been trying to get back. I know, I'm like, I was about to end the video, now I'm still talking. I'm getting back in the game of behavior analysis and psychology. So I'm going to finish reading the Ellipsis Manual probably within the next week, we'll say. And then I'll probably read the Behavior Ops Manual. We'll see. But I do want to read We Who Wrestle with God by Jordan Peterson, which should come in the mail on the 22nd. So I'll probably read that. Maybe I'll read that whenever it comes in the mail. In that case, I'm not going to be reading the Behavior Ops Manual and the Ellipsis Manual before then, but we'll see. Anyway, what was I going to say? So yeah, that's the book I'm currently reading and will be reading for a while. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments. If you didn't, let me know in the comments and let me know why, please. And let's see, I almost make it to 25 minutes here. I got about 20 more seconds. What else is there to say? I recommend this book. It's pretty good. I'll come back to it if I ever make like a YouTube show series. That would be cool. Let me know if you want to see that in the comments. And I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, morning, whatever. Thanks for watching. Peace.